Yeah, and as always, our recordings of our virtual and hybrid meetups are going to be available on the NumFOCUS YouTube page in about a week after this meetup. And we'll post a message on the meetup page when the recording is ready. So next, I'm very pleased to introduce our speaker today, Sherry Wang. Okay, and a little bit about Sherry. Sherry has spent the past decade as a machine learning practitioner working across various industries. Currently at Esperion, she develops systems that assist with healthcare providers in understanding medical records and writing appeals, ensuring that they receive fair compensation for their services. Sherry is passionate about exploring how technology can enhance human capabilities and is dedicated to leveraging her expertise to solve meaningful problems. And Sherry was also a co-organizer of PyData Chicago, so it's really nice to see you again. Okay, and then I'm gonna hand it off to her and we'll get started.
Thank you, Olivia. Hello? Thank you, Olivia. And also, I want to just thank for this opportunity to be able to present. And today, I prepared a presentation that's really not about the technical side of large language models, but a lot of the individual projects I did with large language models. And I just want to share a little bit of my experience and you'll hear a conclusion of mine, but it's really some of the questions that I hope that we can all discuss together. This is the table of content. We're going to go through a little bit of overview of large language models, even though I know everybody already know it. And then I'm going to dive deep into the two explorations I did with large language models. And then, like I said, conclusion, but really more just for discussion. So again, probably everybody already know, like large language models, they really have different three different stages that really that's how they're trained. So we have this pre-training stage where we build a foundational model. It's trained with a lot of the web data. And then this alignment stage where we use supervised fine-tuning and reinforcement learning from human feedback to try to align the model so that they can do tasks we want them to do. And when I look at the industry and how we use large language models, again, this is how I'm thinking about it. I'm sure there are many different opinions and views on this, but I feel on the very far left, there are those more involved ways to use them. You can train a model. Of course, not every company does it. Only really few selected ones are doing that. But a lot of the companies, like even my company, we're trying to fine tune the model. It's still very involved. You have to like collect a lot of the data, do a lot of using a lot of resources, take a lot of time to be able to train it. But on the very right, we have the least involved kind of methods where you can really gain a lot of insights or complete a lot of tasks by just prompt engineering. And a little bit more involved is we do that a lot too on RAG. We kind of ground our answers on the documents we retrieve. But from experience, we noticed that the retrieval part is the key, like a good quality retriever is a key to success. But there are also this middle ground that the industry is really trying to spend a lot of effort thinking about is how do we maybe just enhance the model, build the model in a different way so that it can take consideration of the long context. But that's all good and all. How, as an individual, I can take advantage of LLM is the question I have. So that's where I started the exploration. And the first one is really creating video or pictures. I'll give a little bit of background and I'll kind of go through a couple stages of my exploration. And a little bit of background. My husband is a musician and a producer. So on his spare time, he actually creates YouTube videos. He do covers, piano covers, and he also do production covers. They kind of looks like this. Oh, I guess we can't see. Or they look like, whoops. Or they look like this. So you got the idea. What he really does is pretty much just put a picture there. That's all we can do because his main focus is really the music piece. But when the those video generation tools came out, we were really excited because we feel like, wow, we can use it to create some videos that are more engaging. We're not trying to do anything crazy. Still, our main focus is the music. So we just are hoping this actually is a picture he created based on a game, Catherine. I don't know if anybody knows, it's an old game. And he's creating this music for Catherine, but based on this picture, we're hoping that there's a little bit of, smoky background, and if the eyes can be blinking a little bit, and if the legs and finger can be moving a little bit, and the light can flickering a little bit. That's all we want. We're not trying to create anything like crazy. We just want to really be able to make our videos a little bit more interesting. And we thought it would be easy because it really looks like all those Sora and those video generation tools are so capable. So we started. First, I was thinking we can just put that picture, give it to the GPT, and it's going to describe that picture for us. And that should be the best way for another machine to take and create videos. Because, like those are machine generated descriptions. So that's what I did. So I asked GPT to describe the picture in details, and then I sent that to what's called Luma AI Dream Machine, is one of those providers. And this is what it come up with. I'd say it got the gist of it. I would say it didn't do a horrible job in when I compare it to the description, but it really isn't what we hope to get. So okay, we got it. I was thinking that might be too much to ask for the technology. So what if we really just say, let's not think about creating a video end to end, let's just add motions to the picture, like manipulating it, right? Like it sounds like it should be easy. Again, I think it's easy. So here are the steps I took. I said, okay, describe the picture in details, which it does. And then again, because there's that history of chat, right? That's why I'm doing all this, because based on the previous chat answers, that later on the prompt should be very good. So that's my thought process. So I said, describe the picture in detail. It described it really well. I said, do you know the AI company Pika? And it kind of described, it searched online and then it started describing what Pika is. And then I'm like, okay, can you come up with a prompt to use with Pika so that I can make a video based on the above given picture? And it come up with a prompt. And again, I was pretty pleased with it. I think it does a pretty good job, at least better than I can come up with. And this is the result. Again, I'd say that it kind of got it, but it's a little scary. Like I would not use it on any video. I don't know why. Also, I feel the part that it really made at the movement is being highlighted, and also like I don't know what that glow, like the glow of the light is about. So it doesn't really work. So I thought, okay, maybe it's because the prompt is not that great. So I changed my instruction a little bit. So instead of just saying, can you come up with a prompt? Because we probably everybody know, I don't know if everyone knows, but what is it called? The train of thought. Like you ask the model to describe step by step how it come up with the final prompt is very, very helpful. Even in my job, it really helps improve the prompt. So that's what I did here. I'm like, do you know how to create prompts? And can you, based on that, create a prompt for me? And I also don't need audio. So I actually describe how you would actually create a prompt, and then it created that prompt. It has a little bit better details compared to the last one. And so I tried it. And again, I don't see much difference with this prompt version versus the last one. So again, I think it's pretty safe to say it's a failure again. At this point, I feel like maybe the prompt is the problem. Maybe it wouldn't work. What if I just give it the picture and don't give it any prompt and let's see what happens? I was kind of desperate at this point. So this is what it actually come up with. I would say this is the most promising one. I would really use it if I have to. But if you look at it, I feel the camera keeps moving, but I don't really need that. I need the person to move. I need the light to move. So with that, I thought, okay, now I get it. Like you can do it. And maybe again, like I just give you a little bit less detailed prompt. And maybe I was describing the picture too much. Maybe what I should really describe is the actions, is what I wanted to do with the picture. So I said, okay, this stationary thing without camera movement and all the movement I want. And again, for some reason, it just started to blur that part that it's trying to edit. So no, we don't want that. It doesn't work. But we did feel like the first video it created without any prompt was great. So another little bit information is we don't want to pay for it. So if you say add 5 seconds, that might be doing pretty good, but we don't want to do that. We just want to see what it can do without paying. So what we thought is, okay, let's give it the first video that we really like and give it this prompt and maybe it will do a magic job. And this is what it gave us. It just completely ignored the picture for some reason. Well, when we get to know how the technology work, it actually makes sense. It completely lost its reference point and it's trying to create something that based on the first video. So it lost all the, oh, we want still this girl and don't change anything but only the movement. So it lost all the context. So it kind of come up with something that it thinks we want, which is very different. So I would say that our experiment failed at this point, but we do feel like we learned that this is a tool. It's not something that we can use as somebody who knows nothing about video production to just replace or like create out of the box. And because it's a tool, we need to really learn to use it. So we can learn by trial and error, but it's going to cost a lot of money. And we can also learn by providing better prompts. And those better prompts comes with those filmmaking or video production knowledge. Like for example, a stationary scene. That language is actually, we read a lot of how you create videos, how you make films, and that language is what they use to make certain scenes. And also when we debug, like what happens in the end, we just give it a video as an input and hope it will do its magic. It wouldn't work because if you read the technical knowledge, it's just not how those models work. But through all this learning of how the prompt works, how the technical part works, and how those like video production thing works, we were able to generate something that we thought is pretty interesting. And this is a sequence of pictures that is based on my husband's childhood experience. And at the time, he also wanted to create some sort of choral feeling music. And we thought it's really fitting. So the background music is composed and produced by my husband. And the video is really created with Midjourney and a little bit of video production. So I just want, it's a 2 minutes video and I'm gonna show it because I really felt like it was the best we created. So this is what we came up. So this is what we finally just came up with. It wasn't using a tool to create everything for us. It was still very involved. We still have to learn a little bit of video editing because we still have to add those effects. We have to make sure the music is aligned with what we want. But I think this is a really good way for people like us who has no video production experience to create something that is, I would say, a bit more engaging for the audience, for his audience. Whoops, no, I don't. And we did learn a lot of things through doing this. Like I said, the freestyle creation. Oh, the freestyle creation seems to be a lot easier. What I mean is, if you look at Sora or whatever, you really just give it whatever you can, whatever, like a description, and whatever it creates goes. But in our case, we want to have, for example, a given picture, a given character. We wanted to create things based on that, and it becomes very, very difficult. And it is a thing that the industry known, and it's been, I'm sure the technology improved a lot, because I know a big thing is instruction following for the movie industry, and that's a lot of the companies focusing on to solve that. Um, but also, I feel like through doing this exploration, the domain knowledge is really, really important. All those pictures you saw, the prompt really is about how do you express feelings with visual? And that is what video production and filmmaking, those major, they teach you that. And also, one of the things, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the character is, we try to make it as consistent as possible, but at times it's not really consistent. But we noticed that people suggested you can use character sheets. It's again a concept in the, the filmmaking video production industry where they create a as mostly in actually anime making, where you can see they have this one character and they have his all kinds of emotions with that one character. And when you create that character sheet, then you use that as a base for all your picture creation, then that usually would make your character a lot more consistent. So again, the industry knowledge, the domain knowledge is so important, even though we're using a technology. And also, I feel like when there are so many pictures generated, like I don't know if anybody tried the Midjourney, they usually give you 4 pictures, and then you can change it. And then when you change it at maybe the 4th time, I feel like all those pictures look pretty good to me or pretty bad to me. It's really, really hard to tell like what is a good one if you don't have that eye. And I feel like, again, that's what those professionals are trained for, and they're so good at like really noticing what is good, what is working, what is not good, how do we improve that. So I feel that taste is very important, but it goes back to the domain knowledge is so important, even though we're using technology. So that's kind of my first exploration. And the second exploration is more around code generation. And again, the background is me and my husband both really likes to play board games. And then we got this board game called Mindbug, and I'm just losing to him all the time. So I thought as a data scientist, I have to build something that can help me find the best strategy. So that's the kind of the motivation. And again, I'll kind of go through the stages I went through. But again, this is kind of the Mindbug game. It has many, many different cards, and like each card has different like character, abilities and trigger events and all. And my first thought is reinforcement learning, right? Like you have the agent, you find the strategy that's just a typical reinforcement learning setup. And I was really interested in learning that. So I did a little bit more research, and I realized that the gymnasium was originally created by OpenAI, is the right thing to go. But when I really look deep into that, the algorithm is actually out of the box. It's called Stable Baseline 3 that provides you with a lot of reinforcement learning algorithm. You can just use it, but you have to create the environment. A lot of those reinforcement learning environment is already created. But for our board game, we have to create a customized environment. And when I look into the customized environment, the key is really to represent your game in a, I call it numerical representation, but really just a representation that the code can understand. And also, one of the important thing is what they call the step function, which again is really just the game logic. So you have to implement the game so that the model can really use it to play the game so that it gets reward and it really learns the strategy. That's how reinforcement learning is. So the bulk of the work is to create that customized environment. So that's when, okay, so that's when I start thinking, okay, if the point is just to create a game, why don't I use the ChatGPT or whatever, the model, the large language model to do that? And I did a little bit of trial and errors and I realized that Mindbug is just too complex a game. So just to see if it works, I decided to go with a simpler game. And this game is called Sleeping Queens. We got it for my 4-year-old daughter and is actually created for 7 years olds or above. But it has kind of simple rules, but it's complex enough. There are like five different kinds of cards and 4 different kinds of abilities. So it kind of mimic the Mindbug setup, but in a is a lot simpler. And what I decided to do is using the GAT mode. I don't know, maybe probably many people heard about it, but it's this tool that it kind of under the hood use this agentic flow where it automatically you takes a task, you give it, and just it also receives your feedback. It plans what steps it should take, and each step it will ask you, hey, here is the output. Do you think I can continue? So then eventually you will complete the task. So my task is really write the code, right? That's what I did. And it kind of failed on the first step. The first step is you tell it, what is your task? And then it's supposed to plan it for you. So if I just tell it, you're an experienced machine learning engineer, your task is to create a code base for training a reinforcement learning algorithm using Padding Zoo. Padding Zoo, by the way, so Gymnasium is for one-player environment. Padding Zoo is just like for multiplayer environment. But they're kind of the same framework for reinforcement learning anyway. So I said using Padding Zoo to solve the board game Sleeping Queens. The steps it gives me is not right. So it wants to create the environment right away. It wants to start implementing an algorithm by itself. It wants to just start implementing the training loops. And then, so I have to actually tell it, first, you have to look up for the game rules. And then you should implement the customized environment. And last, you create the training script. And then it get it, of course, because I told it. So then it got stuck on the first step. So the first step is really to find the rules. And here, this is the GAT mode interface. On the left-hand side, you'll see the tasks it's supposed to do. And then for each task it did, it will kind of like report here. So you'll see here that it's searching for the rules and it's trying to retrieve the hyperlinks, and it's searching for the rules again, it's retrieve the hyperlinks, and searching for the rules again. When you look into what it's doing, you will see that get hyperlink command didn't work. So it just keeps like, even though it doesn't work, it still just keeps doing that. I realized that it's not gonna work. So I have to step in. So I decided to just upload that PDF, the rule book, the rule PDF to GPT-4. And then I said, hey, please summarize the rules for me based on provided, sorry, I said Mindbug, but it's really the Sleeping Queens. Based on provided PDF and then the result, I actually pasted it here. So it says give feedback where you can actually give it additional human feedback. So I didn't manually do it, but I created the rule. I did the step for it pretty much. So I'm like, okay, now you can do your thing. But it did look like it started doing its thing. It says, okay, I'll write the Python code for the environment class, and it's writing to a file. And it says, okay, I'll append game-related code, it appended, and then I'll append a function to initialize a DAG. All seems pretty good to me. I think it's what I would do anyway, and I'll append a function to initialize, the 12 shuffled queens, and all looks perfect. And then at one point, I'm like, oh, like there are a lot of steps did already. I want to see my code. So I opened the code and this is how it looks like. If you can see, it really didn't create anything and it pasted the same code 3 times. It says Sleeping Queen environment and it says Sleeping Queen environment and it says Sleeping Queen environment. So this is what it did. So here I'm like, okay, maybe it's just something is wrong just because of, I don't know, that one time. Let me give it a second chance. What you can see here, maybe it's too small for you to see, but I said, hey, inspect the result and see if you're doing it right. It seems to me that there is a problem. And it did find that there's a problem. It says, yes, it seems like the append code is not correct. It's just appending the same code repeatedly. So I'll have to clean up and I'll have to create again. I'm like, okay, it sounds like it recovered. So let's continue doing it. And then I check the code again. It just looks exactly the same. Create environment, create environment, create environment. No change. At this point, I was pretty disappointed at the gut mode. I feel the amount of time I put into this gut mode, I can already implement this game myself. I don't know why I'm spending all this time. So because I'm still exploring the possibility of large language models, and I'm really truly believe that it has the ability. I really think that it's just I'm not using it right. So I decided I'm still gonna do sleeping queens. I'm just gonna use ChatGPT. But this time I'll be the one, I'll not rely on this completely, but I'll be the one who guide it through pretty much. And then I'll be the one who's testing the code. We'll just work on it together. And we actually succeeded, and we trained a reinforcement learning model, and everything looks great to me. I'm still learning reinforcement learning, so I can't really say if I really did a really good model, but looks to me everything works. And I have a Git link if anybody is interested. And I noticed that, again, why this worked is because I broke down the steps of the implementation. I said you first do this, and then you do that, and finally you do this. And also I'm saying do it step by step specifically. And I also specifically said, let's first create blah, 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 you know? I don't just let it run its course. And then after we create one part, I always say, please continue, please continue. And that's how it was able to create the code step by step, section by section. And when I have the final code, what I did is I copied that code and I try to run it, right? Very, very intuitive. And then, of course, you're going to have errors. So I would say, hey, I got this error. I paste that error in there. And then I say, please update the code to fix it. And it actually does a pretty good job in fixing the code most of the time, but it did get stuck. So there was a bug that it introduced, and I said, hey, fix it. So it fixed that bug. But then it introduced a new bug. So I say, fix this new bug. It reverted back to that old bug. So we're just in this loop. So then what I did is I read the code and I just fixed it. And I said, hey, look, this is the right way to do it, and continue. So I also noticed that, again, like if we know the technical details, so the context management or the memory management is kind of important, because the chat GPT is a chat interface. So we just naturally want to continue chatting. If something doesn't work, we just send a new question. So that really isn't the way to do it, because eventually it just forgets what we have in the very beginning. But in the very beginning, it's where it's the most important, is all this context. So I just started doing things that I don't know what. So I noticed that, like, if we just add it instead of here, everybody probably know, but like you just click this little pencil, you can edit that, so it regenerates, and then that way it really helps the model to, I guess, like saved its memory really. So this is how it really worked for me. And some of the learning here is I realized that a good architecture design is still very, very important. And that's probably more important than implementation, because Sleeping Queens, like I said, is a very, very simple game. You don't need any design at all. You just can brute force all the rules, everything is there. But for Mindbug, it didn't work because it needs like 50 different creatures and their abilities and the trigger events to figure out what is the right design. And that step is really critical. And that step is what it cannot do. So it failed. And also it really needs the step-by-step implementation. It can never do it from beginning to the end. And also, again, like I said, the context and the memory management is really, really important, at least for now. I'm sure all the models are evolving, and the memory length is getting larger. At one point, this probably isn't a problem anymore, but at this point, I feel this is pretty important. So really, when I think about how I'm using the LLMs, I feel there are just two ways. One is it's a coding assistant. It really helps me to code fast. If I can design it and implement the functions I designed, it's really fast. And also it's an informational assistant. Again, like right now, I feel the text heavy information is important, but again, it's evolving. So I'm sure soon even pictures, all the different modalities are gonna work. But for now, I feel it's more an informational assistant. But it seems to me it's very limiting if it's all it does is just coding and information. And I'm thinking maybe it's because there isn't a lot of good AI product. Like, so I start to think, so how can companies take advantage of LLM? Of course, they create products. And here are the products I personally am using heavily. But every single one of them, I feel there's some suboptimal experience. It's helping me, but it's not completely there. Maybe the best one is Copilot, but like think about Midjourney, it's a Discord. It kind of is a long chat history. It doesn't really help you too much in your creative process other than it just creates and creates. There's this notebook LM that Google created. I use it heavily, but um, it's just not there. Like the interface looks very, I think, very bizarre. It's not pretty, and many times it doesn't really fit with my learning style. Like all these things I use, I feel it's really helping me, but it's really not there. So I wonder, is it because there's just this technology is not there? Maybe when GPT-5 came out, everything will just work beautifully. But that's when I came upon this article. It's a really old article, and it mentioned in 1969, we actually put a man on the moon. But in 1972 is when we put the wheels on the luggage. If you think about it, the technology is already there. So really the innovation that we want, maybe we don't really need that much technology. I feel a lot of the impactful innovations are not really using the most like advanced technology, like a wheel on the luggage, right? So I wonder when we say are we focusing, I really meant like companies who's using AI to create applications. Of course, OpenAI and all those companies, they should focus on technology advancement. We are relying on them for better models. But for the application companies like my company, Asperion, are we really focusing so much on using the best technology and thinking about how we can use this model, like tune this model? But we're not really thinking enough about how we can build a product that really can help people, how we can build the best user experience, the user interface that people really would be benefiting from using these tools. And also when I'm thinking about, again, this is actually something that I mentioned in the article, I'm just gonna steal it. He did mention that there are two different types of innovation. One is the industry insider, more like the send a person to the moon, right? But there's this frequent users who just saw a better way of doing things, like put a wheel on a luggage. And I kind of feel like in this LLM age, prototyping becomes so easy. We can so easily build anything we want. If you want to learn, the information is there. If you want to learn a new field, the information is there. If you want to learn to code, the assistant is right there. We can pretty much prototype and build things so much easier and faster than before. But a lot of the times, even when I was thinking through this process, you can see I'm still thinking, oh, as a consumer, I want the company to build a better product for me. But why don't we try to like think more about being the builder? Because I do feel like LLM is enabling everybody to be a builder if you choose to be. So that's kind of my conclusion. There are two questions more than conclusions. That's the things I've been thinking about, and I would love to know what you guys are thinking about. And shamelessly plugging my company hiring information. I'm from Asperion. We're not a really, really big company. Well, we are a really, really big company, but our technology or machine learning side is called Infania. It's a very small company. It started from a lab in a university lab. It's in North Carolina, and people are really, really nice. There are a lot of really, really smart people, PhDs from top universities, but everybody is super humble and really eager to learn. So it's a great, great, great environment. We're hiring data engineers, we're hiring senior data scientists, their product roles as well. We're using LLM in the healthcare industry. So if you know that in the healthcare industry, there are those pairs, Blue Cross Blue Shield, for example. There are those hospitals that provide services. Many times they don't get paid because the insurance company just said, we don't agree, like we don't want to pay, you're not following whatever. Then we go into the medical record, we go into the guidelines, and then we try to understand them and we try to write appeals. So eventually the hospitals can get what they deserve. In this process, there are a lot of information, there are a lot of things we can improve with LLM. So I really think we're doing a meaningful work and it's really interesting too. And if anybody is interested, feel free to talk to me or just look up online for our open positions. With that, I will end the talk. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity. Oh, and if anybody has questions.